Right, I'm just going to, it's a short presentation, just so that I can keep in order and we've got some clarity. You don't need, you can take notes. I would encourage you to take any notes about anything that resonates, but I'm going to, I pull everything together on the last screen shot, and I'm going to send you that for those of you that might want to work through some sort of strategy. I think we've agreed that audience is absolutely key, and this might reveal some holes in the bucket when it comes to the audience. I think the first thing we've got to say is, where is our audience to be found? What does that audience look like? What are the problems and the issues that they have that we solve? And I think many people, when they start out in business, they know what they do. They build perhaps a website to explain what they do, but they don't consider too much about who is it that needs what they do. So we've got to know where that audience is to be found and how we're going to connect with them. What are we going to say? Now, I'm hoping Nick will say something about this later, but the first thing is what I would conveniently put as data mining. In other words, going through your phone book, your business cards, the Excel spreadsheets that you've collected, the CRM, to know who are the people that you could reach out to that are likely to need your particular service. I think the challenge is that very often we think about anybody can use our service, and that's not the case. How do you reach out to them? Well, you can reach out via email. You can send them an email. You can decide, you may feel very comfortable getting on the phone or employing somebody to get on the phone. You may decide, and a lot of people, and Nick alluded to this, a lot of people go on to social, they post, they like, they spend lots of time on there, on LinkedIn or Facebook, if that's where your audience is. I've a lot of experience in knowing people that I meet at networking events, and you've got people that will go to every networking event that there is. Very few people start out with the last one, but when it comes to advertising, and particularly pay-per-click, we've got to appreciate, and we've said it previously, that Google already has your audience. LinkedIn and Facebook and the other social medias are very fine-tuned to have that, to deliver that audience to you at a price, and they'll do it fast. And if you know what you're doing, or you're working with somebody that you know that knows what they're doing, they'll do it very accurately. And that is really key. Now you can have they're the issues, and I'm going to get everybody to come back on that. The second stage is, first of all, it's finding the audience. The second stage is, what are you actually going to say? How are you going to say it? Are you going to say something in email? Are you going to pick the phone up? What are you planning to say? I like to reach out on email. I don't like cold calling. I won't do I've got an aversion to cold calling. So I'll readily reach out on social media, or I'll reach out on email. I'll usually get some sort of engagement. And a lot of the activity on social media, when people are responding, it's people are not sure what to do next. But we've got to decide, when we've made that phone call, or we've met somebody at a networking event, or whatever method we've meant to get in front of that audience, what do we want them to do next? So that's the framework for an audience, in my view. There could be other things. I'd be welcome to hear from everybody. The second one is the indirect audience, and it's something that I've specialized in 20 years, and that's the audience of referral partners. See, when I first started in networking, I saw the people in the room as my audience for my products, and I would nail the most likely people to the side of a wall and bombard them with my stuff. I'd stand up at networking meetings and I'd talk to everybody as if they were my direct audience. But these people have got the access to your audience if you choose the right partner. So the the next audience, there's two audiences I think we need to be reaching out to. One is direct audience that want our product, that could use our products and service. The second is our referral partners, those people who have got the ability to make introductions because they've already got a large trusted audience with a trusted relationship in a sector that we want to get into, or they've already got the audience that we want to reach. So if we can connect with those people in a meaningful way, we perhaps have the beginning of a good referral or marketing partnership. It's called word of mouth. And most people stumble upon it by accident. They approach it passively. And I want to suggest that if word of mouth is an important part of your marketing strategy, it should be done on purpose. It should have a purpose in everything you do. And this is the final part. The strategy, as far as I'm concerned, is decide who you want to surround yourself with that could become good referral partners, and build a relationship, a strong, deep relationship with them. Not a passive one so that you see them now and again. And I've watched over many years people that will drift in and out of the B&I meetings, or probably any other meetings, because they're still looking for that sale instead of settling down and building a solid relationship. One that has an agreement between two people or three people. They have an agreement that they're going to work with each other, that it's going to be reciprocal. In other words, I'll do something for you, but I expect you to do something for me. It would be good if you do something for me, because if it's one-sided, I've got to tell you, we all get a bit peed off. You're constantly giving and giving, that's fine. But if you never receive anything back, it's not absolutely brilliant. So, you know, and I think a lot of people come along to networking events because they want something. They don't think about how they're going to give back or how they're going to give in the first place. The other way in which, and by the way, you don't have to belong to BNI or 4N or any other group to do this. You can still build a relationship around the online networks that you've got. In other words, the subgroups. For me, it would be marketing people in any associated market to do with marketing. It could be photography, copywriting, website design, SEO, etc. And it could be that the arrangement that you agree, the agreement, is a reciprocal one. For many businesses, it could be a payment, a bounty payment. If you know what a customer is worth to you, and you've got the mindset that you're prepared to pay for that, and you can afford to pay for that, well, why don't you reward somebody? It could be a fixed affiliate or a commission scheme, or it could be something that is just a surprise. Somebody gives you a referral and it's really good, and you treat them to something. That's maybe for another day as to how that, but that's perfectly good as a strategy. But the key thing about this is that you take time with the group of people. In BNI, they call it a power team, but it doesn't really matter what you call it. It's who are your close referral partners. Who are the people that who have already got the audience that you want to get in front of? And that if you can build trust and rapport with that individual, if they know you to be competent, if they know you to be reliable, and they understand exactly who you want to get in front of, and why and how you add value, and they feel confident that by introducing you, they will add value to their relationship, then it's magic. A lot of people think just because they do a one-to-one or they join a group that it will be instant. It takes time. We are very, very guarded about the relationships we already have. And we're not just about to invite any Tom, Dick and Harriet to get in front of them, because it's going to reflect on us. And so therefore, and this is the bit that people miss, and it really is key. The key, when it's not just whether you like and trust somebody, the next key thing is to educate that person. They're potentially going to represent you. You want them to be thinking you're top of mind, so you need to educate them as to what your afters are like. In other words, not what you do, but how your clients and your potential clients could feel, and what they can have after you've done that service. So you might teach them what to look for when they're out and about, what to listen for in any conversation. What would they say that might indicate a need that they ought to be talking to me or to Nick or to Rod? They need to prepare for those things. And stories are really magical. So I know easily how to refer Rod Major because he's forever telling me stories, and some of them are really related to business and the situation and the circumstances that people have. And those stories are magic. So that little bottom bit is the bit that often is missing. So I'm going to open it back up. I'm going to send you that if you want it, so you can systematically tick through what you really do, but maybe what you could do with doing more about. I'm going to hand it back to the group and ask for some feelings about anything you would add to that for the sake of. Let me just take that off. Am I back? I think I am. Rod.
Well, I can give you an example that happened to me last night. I was sat here ready to join in a Lions meeting, on a Zoom meeting, and I got a phone call from another Lion over at Cheddar. A Lion over there had died. Could I come over and help them? So that was a personal relationship with one Lions club to another Lions club. But because they knew what I did for a living, because I see them every Wednesday when they walk by with their dog, they referred me to this lady who I didn't know from Adam. So even a funeral director can get a referral.
Well, is that I'm going to ask you, I'm going to put you on the spot now. Is that a passive referral? Is it by just the fact that I know you talk to these people, they know what you do? I would call that a passive referral.
Well, I do both of their funeral plans. I don't know if that makes it non-passive.
No, actually, when somebody's been a customer, that's always a lot easier because they've already experienced the afters, or at least the benefits of working with you. They think you're the bee's knees because they've spent money with you. But have you ever asked them for potentially any further business? I don't necessarily mean for a funeral, but for a funeral plan, for instance. Do we go back to the people that have had funeral plans and actually ask them, get their feelings about how they feel now that they've got do they still feel comfortable, etc. And who else do they know that might be worried about their arrangements? That is what I would call on purpose. And yeah. You are an award-winning funeral director. You've sold really a tremendous number of funeral plans. But could that be a rich mine to tap into? Does anybody else go? Sorry?
No, it could well be. Yeah, you're quite right. There's an untapped resource there that I'm yet to tap into.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in fact, in some cases, and I know you did it in the early days, if somebody bought a particular, they were the times when you saw some really lean spells. I remember you doing a £50 Marks and Spencer's or John Lewis voucher for anybody else that bought a plan, or maybe introduced somebody to a plan. It's done all the time. All the online companies do it very well. Nick,
the point you made about the fellow people in the networking group, the way that I look at it is I always refer to you guys being my sales force, as in, and if you're going to be my sales force, then you need the tools from me so that you can help sell my service. Now, I know Nick Cole pretty well in a virtual kind of way, and I understand, I kind of know his business well because I've lived in that world for such a long time. And it's an interesting one that you're talking funeral plans. Now, I've got no idea how much a funeral plan costs. I've got absolutely no idea. And I don't really know what a funeral plan is anyway. So unless Rod educates me, because I'm going to be his salesman, I cannot promote him. And I think there are people around this room, they say what they do, but they can't. I can't promote them on that basis because I just don't know enough about what it costs, how it works. Now, Mr. Ginormous Websites, now I know that he does websites for less than £500. And I remember the first time I met him, it was really clear. And it's like, I pass websites out to companies because in my role as a marketing guy, I don't do websites, but I refer business to people that do. Now, it's very easy to sell Andrew because it's less than 500 quid. It's a no-brainer, really. But I would suggest there's nobody in this room knows how much Nick Cole charges, what kind of work he does, in addition to taking branding photographs. So how can you sell him? You can't, obviously, because you don't know enough about him. And I think look at this group as your sales force, and I like that analogy.
I think that I think when you use the word sell them, it's really more to do with introduction. I think they're the best at selling themselves, but you need to know whether, if you're matching two people, you need to know whether there's a good fit. So that's for exactly instance, my point. Yeah. Kelly and Ewan do websites at a different price scale than Andrew, and so we can't. I'll come to you just next, Barry. We can't determine on price alone, because what I would want to know from Andrew, because £500 seems a very small amount. I mean, so it's a matter of educating who are the ideal customers, and he can do that by showing us all some of the websites that he's done, why they chose him, how they benefited, etc. But also what they don't get. And I think that would add a lot of authority, because if they were getting all the bells and whistles, he's not charging anywhere enough.
I take that point, and that to some extent has to do with my knowledge of websites and so on. And I know intuitively sometimes when I'm chatting to somebody, there's no way this person's got any money for a website, let alone £5,000 or whatever it might be. So it is about knowledge, though, isn't it? Basically, it's all about knowledge and understanding how to make that fit. Because yes, it's not my job to sell the website; it's my job to make the introduction. But it needs to be relevant, doesn't it?
We're the matchmaker.
Yes, that's
right. And
we
know, and we're going to get feedback. The person is going to say, "Oh, thank you for introducing me to Andrew. I really enjoyed it. He's exactly the right person I need." And you get a bit of kudos. But if they come back and say, "Oh, it's an absolute waste of time. He was a plonker," it's not in the case of Andrew. But Barry, you had a point.
That's almost a backhanded compliment there, wasn't it? He's not a plonker. Right. So two things. One, I just had a quick look at my my sales for this year, and about 40% of them come from people referring, come from people who have been referred to me, which I was surprised. It was higher than I expected, but yeah, something like 40%, without doing the numbers with a calculator, come from referrals. But the point I was going to make, which is more important than that, is that we have to be patient. That referrals don't happen overnight. Mm-hmm. It does take time to build that relationship, for people to be comfortable in referring you to a third party, and also for them to understand what you actually do, just to follow up a bit on what's been said previously. So yeah, be patient and do a good job.
Well, can I say, Barry, as long as we don't confuse patience with complacency, and it's not about educating people, I don't think, about what you do. They already know what you do because they've just bought your services, maybe, or they can quickly work out what a printer does. I think the education is on two things. First of all, exactly who do you want to be introduced to? So, for instance, in your case, it could be that you're doing a lot of, or you were doing a lot of print for the COVID, the sort of labels and signage that help people keep at a distance. And it could be that at one stage you were looking for people on the retail sector. So that's why it's always good to be very specific when you're educating somebody about exactly who you'd like to be talking to. Because if you said, who do you know that's got a retail outlet right now that's struggling? Because I can produce, or who do you know that's got takeaway restaurants? Because one of the best ways for them to get more business, if they're not known as a takeaway, is to produce a takeaway menu and to get that distributed door to door. Now, we've been doing a number of takeaway menus for this restaurant, and that restaurant. Who do you know in Wells right now? Who do you know in Cheddar? Who do you know in Glastonbury that's got a restaurant that you can introduce me to? And what you would say. So in other words, it's education. I think a lot of, because you're popular and good at what you do, Barry, you're able to pinpoint 40%. But if I go back to what I said to Rod, if you were to look at those people that regularly give you business, they would be a perfect person to educate them, and they may not be on one of these networking groups. They may never attend these, but there could be a way in which you can reach back out to them and say, look, you use me for a lot of reasons. What in particular, why do you use me? What is it you particularly enjoy? They would tell you something you're not likely to know, or something you take for granted. And then you can also then follow up and say, look, I'm building a lot of my business right now through introductions. And these are the people I'm looking for. And these are the reasons why. Any of these could you help me with? And, in return, is there anything I can help you with? I'm making this up as I go along, but it's basically, that's the way you'd approach it. In other words, what would you say? How would you say it? Is there any collateral that you can give? People give out business cards, maybe postcards at networking events, but on the back, if they said, these are the referrals I would love the most, and then put those on a website. I'm just thinking of any other collateral we could use. Produce it in a video. In other words, asking to be introduced to the right people could start to put some purpose in creating that, getting in front of that next audience, that bigger audience. Anybody else want to add anything to that? Nick, you do quite a bit of data mining. In other words, if coming back to the original concept of how people are reaching out, and I think if we cover email and then we cover social media, most of our contacts can be fine. Most of our audience are either in the data we already have, or we've got to find them. How do you help somebody like that, Nick?
Well, I think I'm just about to write one of the blogs that I'm embarking on is called why dopamine gets in the way of your marketing. And I think, and that seems like a bit of a funny one about the whole world of dopamine and neuroscience, but the reality is that we all like to be liked. And in the world of social media, and unfortunately LinkedIn has become a kind of business Facebook, unfortunately, which is a damn shame. And what happens is that people blast posts out on social media and then get lots of people who they know who aren't going to buy from them saying, amazing, great, lovely, and a whole load of stuff. And you only need to look at Facebook where somebody's birthday, they get 100 people who aren't their friends really saying happy birthday. And it is what happens and my friends down there in the PPC place, Kelly and Ewan will know this only too well, is that you just got to be in front of a lot more people than most of us are in front of. And if I look at the analytics, if I look at what it takes, and I show them a little PowerPoint here, I had 123, back end of January, 123 people came and looked at my post, my article on my website, which is also on LinkedIn, saying perhaps your marketing is too dull. Now, how many people did I have to get in front of to do that? And the number is big. The number is about 7,500 to get 123 people. Now, I don't know these people, so there's no dopamine hit because they're my friends saying you're great or anything like that. Or I built a snowman. Hey, isn't your snowman great on Facebook? These are people that I've never met before, and they don't know me. And if I said to you, if you want to, and if I take the whole thing around PPC, and we were talking about click-through rates, it's alarming how many people you need to be in front of before somebody will buy from you. And it's many, many tens of thousands that you've got to be in front of before somebody will actually commit and pay your invoice. And so I think so in my approach to marketing my services is, I come to this networking meeting and then we run business focused networking, as you know, which is why we're kind of here, well, why I'm here. And there are people in this group that also come to that group, but those are really small groups and they grow and they deliver sales only because we get to know each other and trust each other. And what I like is that, just before this meeting, I had a client who's well, he's about 95% a client, and I sent him an email, but I didn't know who he was, and it was from a list that I bought, and it was 5,500 contacts that I bought from a company called MarketScan, who are sort of the partners in my email marketing world that I work with. And I'm not disappointed that I can send out 5,000 emails and I only get 2 or 3 genuine inbound inquiries, but it doesn't all feel good to get those. So I think that the thing here, and there is, you know, the thing with email marketing or any about messaging, which I think I'm going to talk about next week, messaging is key, absolutely key. Just saying what you do, I do this, there's no reason to buy. And if you think about when you're out in the car and you go past the supermarket and you say, if you buy this block of cheese, you can have this one half price or for free. It's a really simple proposition, and it's got nothing to do with the supermarket. It's got to do with you as the customer, what you want. So my approach, and there's a couple of people here that kind of understand my approach, you have to put a message that's interesting in front of people. And I did that in front of 5,500 people, and the subject line was, is it time to give email marketing a try? And then I'd written a blog, Email Marketing, where it so often goes wrong. And it's only a short little email, and it's just a screen grab from it. And what I loved about this reply, this inbound inquiry, it said timely email. So it had arrived at, because we don't know when our customers want to buy, but unless you're in front of them all the time, softly, gently, delicately, like we are in networking to some extent, we're not really selling here. We're just saying, this is what I do. And then hopefully from that, we'll get something in the long run, which is a point Barry made, I think. So I think the whole thing around you is to get in your heads, you have to be in front of a lot of people, and then you have to be appropriate in your messaging and what you're putting in front of them, because you don't know when they're going to buy. And I think a good example of that, just finally, there are all in this room, in this group, there are things that we are thinking about buying. We are thinking about maybe going to Chile in 2023, or we're going to buy an office like I'm sitting in my garden, but we're just not ready to make the decision yet, or things get in the way. And it is those people that stay on my radar gently, softly, quietly. Those will be the people I will buy from in the long run. A flash in the pan, do you want to buy this? Never going to work. So you've got to be in front of many thousands of people somehow. There we are, seeing my high horse.
No, that's valuable, that, Nick. It's very much back to the 82% of people buy at the 7th touch, and that's to do with timing. And it's how do you get from touch 1 to touch 7 and beyond? That's so true, Rod.
Yeah, I think I can wholeheartedly agree with everything you say, Nick. And you know, in a previous life, I've had the privilege of doing something similar at a time when hardly anybody was sending any emails at all. Or certainly not email marketing, e-shop type of thing that we used to call them. But I think what that reinforces to me when I'm listening to you talk about that, my weekly visit to the market in Wells, standing out like a sore thumb on a standard market, you know, market town and a standard marketplace, being there as a funeral director, once you've got over the initial shock and you realize that 2,000 of your local population walk by you every Wednesday, it's sort of probably that one little thing that I did by mistake or maybe on purpose, I don't really know, has probably set my business forward 5 years.
Yeah.
And I can almost track, because I know what the other funeral directors are doing in my area, and I know 25 years looks like this. What does 5 years look like? And you can almost work out the numbers if you like numbers. And it is interesting that 5 years on, and I'm probably at the 10-year stage, not the 5-year stage, which is, you know, I'm well chuffed with, really.
One of the things that, again, by default, that I learned very early on in sales, when I decided I wanted to get into sales, I went into retail menswear sales, and you had to passively wait for people to walk through the door. Then you had to engage with them, and I've always found that engagement pretty good. In the early days, the engagement amounted to me talking and selling stuff, you know, pushing my stuff. And that was the early days of networking. But when I really became grounded and much more confident, I realized that the key thing is asking the right questions, because when you can delve and ask the right questions, you can find out where somebody's at in their particular journey. The challenge you've got with, say, social media, with, I suppose, advertising of any means, is that it tends to be you're doing the selling, you're trying to be persuasive. And on social, you're trying to disguise that as social. The real key is knowing what you want them to do next. And so I know Mark Howard does a lot on LinkedIn, for instance, and has produced a lot of content. Be interested to know exactly what the aim of that was and what it resulted in, because if you are producing content, what you really want is you want the engagement bit. Somehow you want them to respond back. Now, whether that's in a questionnaire, whether that's picking up on comments and getting that conversation offline, getting that conversation onto the chat, and then maybe onto a video call or a phone call. That is, to me, that's my strategy. And it might not be on yours, but it's knowing once you've got that conversation, once you've reached out and got in front of that audience, what do you want them to do next? Do you want them to buy something? Do you want them to download something? In many ways, on a website, for instance, it's increasingly more difficult. We want to grab hold of. We want them to do something. There's a guy that I've been following on for the last last week. I've been following on the net on YouTube. It's a guy called Graham Cochran. He does a lot on Kajabi, but he actually has got a 7-figure business selling courses, and I'm quite keen on the idea of selling a course. I'm really quite curious, and I'm taking it a bit further. I've seen a lot of his YouTube videos. Last night I purchased a course of his, $37. So he's doing exactly, and I've already given him an email address for a report he did. So, you know, and I'm particularly tracking how he's doing it. So I'm spending my own money to track how he's doing that. As part of my process is to rethink that. So knowing what you're going to do, once you're in front of that audience, knowing what you want to say, how you're going to say it, and what you want to do next. And the trouble with a lot of social media and a lot of networking is we don't know what we want to do next. So we never ask anybody or direct somebody to doing anything next. There's a guy called Gary Vaynerchuk, that you can love him or like him, but he's very, very cute. He's very on the ball. And he wrote a book some years ago that I have called Jab, 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 Right Hook. And it was the metaphor was in a boxer that's jab, 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 and then the right hook. In other words, give, 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 but then ask. Give, 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 ask. If you give, 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 you'll get peanuts. If you jab, 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 sell, 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 people will back away. But there needs to be a balance of what you do. And there's an argument that says you should be constantly telling people what you want them to do next. Pick up the phone, contact, you know, actually get them onto some sort of call. Is that fair? That's an essential part of the strategy we've got at Funeral Marketing. I've got complete track of who I've got engagement calls with, discovery calls, question calls, and business, you know, so we know exactly. So it's a process. The two Nicks, Nick Cole first and then Nick Sladek.
I'm actually going to refer to Nick Sladek in this point, Paul. Nick and I have been having a conversation recently about, you know, the kind of content you put out there. And I can probably have a tendency to be maybe a bit safe in my content. You know, it's all added value and it's all very nice, and it kind of guides the client slowly along a journey. But I think the chat that Nick and I have been having is, you know, do you need to sometimes be a bit more disruptive? Do you need to be a bit more challenging to get a debate going so that people actually start to listen to what you've got to say, get a conversation going, and then you can then actually probably get more engagement with what you're trying to put out there. There is, I mean, it goes back to our stuff, I guess what Nick was saying about social media now. There's so much blah, blah, blah out there that it's just noise. It's just white noise. You don't see it. And I think that point about trying to cut through occasionally, you can't do it all the time, I don't think, but if you cut through occasionally with something, the right hook, I think then you will start to stand out a bit more. And I think, that's good advice from Nick.
I think edgy conversations are good because they will stand out. And just because somebody's arguing with you or taking issue, you're more likely to respond to something that's a bit edgy. I think the way people are contacting people on LinkedIn in particular is disgraceful. The way they're doing it. I've challenged one lady who's based over in Somerset. She's obviously working for Action Coach, and I actually challenged her. I said, I know all about Action Coach, but I get the feeling this is a copy and paste. You're just copy and pasting messages to everybody. So it was a bit of an edgy response. And give her a credit. She came back to me and she said, I am sorry if that's the way it's coming over. I said, well, moreover, I might be able to help Graham reach out and get him in front of more of the people he wants to reach out to. And we've got a call at 10 o'clock. I'm not going to try and sell anything. I'm just going to find out and maybe, find out where she's coming from and how she's doing that. And I'd probably put her in touch with, a course on LinkedIn or whatever, but maybe, but yes, Nick.
Thanks, Nick, for that point. I always want to pick up on what you said there, Paul, around what do we want people to do next. And I want just to add a bit of what I think is a bit of sophistication to that. I always say, what do I need to say to my audience so they say back, I want that, I want to buy your service or product. Now, what are those words? Now, if Nick Cole tells a story that says there are two firms of accountants, and every week one of them gets a new client, and every week the other one doesn't get a new client, and what's the difference between those two firms of accountants and the company that are getting the business because they've got really nice headshots of all of the staff on their website? And so if Nick tells that story, he's not saying, what do I need to do next? What we're hoping is the accountant in the room that doesn't have any headshots saying, shit, I need to do that. I'm going to phone Nick. So in answer to that question, what do I need to say to those people over there so they go, I want that? And really, in terms of marketing, that is all you ever need to do. You need to put a message out there, because I think the whole thing around a call to action, and a lot of people say, but you haven't got any calls to action and all this sort of stuff. The call to action is to build a desire. And if you build a desire, you don't need a call to action. You don't need a time imperative, buy this before the end of the day or whatever it is. If you're offering a professional service, which we all are in this group, whatever you do, all you need to do is, and it's a simple one to chuck out there, all you need to do, what do you need to say to somebody so they go, I want it, I'd like to buy that, I want to have a phone conversation with you, whatever it might be. And I think that's all there is to it. It's very easy for me to say that. It's difficult to deliver. It's very difficult to deliver.
Absolutely. The words, as I say, what's the audience you want to get to, and what is it going to say? How are you going to say it? And I don't think the call to action for anybody that's curious is necessarily to buy. The call to action is to move it along the next step. So, for instance, if Nick was doing that in a broadcast, he could say exactly what you've just said, which was excellent, and say, there's three things that most people get wrong that you need to get right. If you'd like to know what they are, just give me a call or give me your email address and tell me where I can send. Or I've got a video that will show you. I've got actually a demonstration of two accountants and how they get it wrong and how they could be getting it right. Just give me your email address, because all you want from that is the ability to develop the relationship from that address.
The quality conversation. It's having the quality conversation, isn't it?
It's moving to that engagement, isn't it, where you can build that. And now it's easier than ever. Ewan.
Interesting on that. I've worked a lot in lead generation, lead nurturing for big organizations, and especially in the business to business, that idea of call to action, what you're usually doing is just trying to move people, as you said, down the funnel, as they call it, and there's lots of different definitions, but there's one of the sort of the ones that I've always worked at is you have different stages that people go through. And they can be different definitions, but there's awareness. So first is people aware of your service. The second is consideration. Are they considering something that you're offering? The third is decision. They're at the point where they're making a cognitive decision of A versus B or A versus B versus C. The third is then purchase. It's the point of purchase. And then a key one which people often forget, and one which I know you're keen on a lot, Paul, is post-purchase. And the idea of the funnel is to basically, it's a cycle. You push people from awareness, consideration, decision, purchase, post-purchase. And the call to actions at each stage are about understanding your audiences, where they are within that process, and trying to push them along that funnel.
It's absolutely right. Everything you say is right. Yeah.
Good. Mark, can I come to you? You're not a natural marketeer, but of all the accountants I've ever known, you've embraced marketing. You've gone headlong into it and thought, I'm going to do this. And I've got every admiration for the way you've done that. And I think the key that you have demonstrated is it doesn't matter whether you think you know what you're doing. You probably didn't know what you're doing, or maybe you did, but you're going to learn from that experience. What have you learned from the time that you've been spent quite prolifically doing things on LinkedIn?
Well, I think probably a lot of people will say I still don't know what I'm doing, but
Say that all of us.
you know, but I'm having a go, which is you know, when you go into business, really, you've got to be able to put yourself outside your comfort zone, and the sales and marketing is about as far outside my comfort zone as I could possibly get. But I mean, for me, posting on LinkedIn as I do, and the others, is I'm using that just all about getting that constant drip feed of I'm here, this is what I do, and you know, majority of my clients that I have now, after just over 12 months, have pretty much all come from referrals.
Now, have they come directly from LinkedIn? I'm not. Yeah.
No, I haven't picked up any specific clients from LinkedIn. I'm just using that as something of keeping the name out there.
But is there anything that you could have been doing? Is there anything we can all help Mark with? Because I think you recently posted that you'd got, was it 1,000 followers or
something? Yeah, something. It's just sometimes I think of something and I do it, and you know, I think sometimes if you overanalyze, should I or shouldn't I post it? It's you'd never post anything. So
have you been? How many conversations have you had on LinkedIn? And by that I mean you've started some chat, and then maybe you've said, let's get on a Zoom call or a video call.
I've had a few, probably not as many as I should do.
But so maybe what might be something to look at is, if you're going to post something anyway, is there something that you could post that actually had a call to action, that encouraged somebody to reach out and chat with you, or that where somebody is chatting that you or commenting, that you take a look at their profile and then suggest, you know, you might write back and then suggest, hey, you made an interesting point, I'd love to talk to you further about it, particularly potential referral partners.
Yeah,
I mean,
there is certainly more stuff I could be doing, I know.
Because can I chuck something in here about Mark? Because I've just been a bit sneaky here and looking at your posts, and I'd be really happy to help you out here a little bit. What tends to happen when people post is they get a photograph, big photograph, and then the words are tiny about the headline. The words need to be in the photograph, because if you think about how a post, so if you're driving along in the car and you see a 48 sheet poster, big old poster, it's something to attract your attention. And I always use Specsavers because most of us have got glasses on here, and we all know what a Specsavers poster looks like, as in it's got a boy and a girl in it, usually wearing specs. It's got a massively strong proposition, as in to designer something or other for 69 quid and a logo at the bottom right. And that's how posting on Facebook or on LinkedIn needs to work, as in you need to attract somebody's attention with an image that's pertinent. And you've got an image here which has got lots of arrows on it. It doesn't mean anything to me. It's the words. It is those lovely key words that need to be a little bit edgy. how to pivot your business so that you stay in business. Those words are only probably 3% of the actual visual image I get. So I just seeing these endless pictures that are kind of irrelevant. It's the words that are important. And if you want me to show you how to do that,
I'll take that on board.
I'm very, very happy to do that. And your engagement, it's a bit noisy what you're shoving out there. And I mean, it's a harsh one. It needs more edge. It needs to be edgier, and it almost needs to say something that somebody, piss 20% of the people off and engage with the other 80, and it'll start the conversation. If I say in this group that PPC and bought media advertising doesn't work, the guys at the bottom of my screen are going to say, well, hang on a minute. Now, it doesn't work for a lot of people, and everybody has had a bad PPC experience, I would think. Well, anybody who's done PPC is going to have had a bad experience. That doesn't mean it doesn't work. It is a crucial marketing tool, absolutely crucial for a number of businesses. And done wrong, and I'm sure Kelly and Ewan will agree, done wrong, it's a fantastic way to give Google a lot of money and get no business. So it's about doing it right. And you'd agree with that, wouldn't you, Kelly and Ewan? Yeah, so and I know that. So you've got to be edgy. You have to just stir it up a bit. And so just if you want some help for nothing, just talk to me afterwards.
Nick's
sure,
point,
no, I'll get in touch. Thank you, Nick.
Nick's point there on having words within the picture is I straight away think of YouTube, because nowadays it's that opening screen as you're scrolling through YouTube. For ages, I would put things on YouTube where it's, I'm speaking to camera, so it's just me in various different shirts or tops or whatever. And now I almost inevitably put some sort of edge using Canva, by the way, to grab that attention, if you like, and to indicate why they should click on that. So Nick's point is a very, very good one. Headless body is a bar.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't tell me you wouldn't want to read about that.
Yeah.
In actual fact, the newspapers and various magazines, you do well just to read through those to learn a bit about the way, because they're masters at grabbing attention.
But just think about it. That is on the shelf in the newsagent, and they want you to buy that paper.
Yeah.
So it's exactly the same. It's about just in this sea of images, that's the one I want to buy.
And Nick, that's the power of the headline, isn't it? That's the power of those 8 words or whatever. Yeah.
Which is why I wanted you to talk about going on a blind date.
Or the Invisible Man. Yeah.
Rod's interested in that.
Oh, I'm always interested in any date. Forget about blind. Any date. What I was going to say, look, I've always had Paul knows, I've always had the philosophy in relation to Mark, is that if you're trying to attract lots of new businesses, they're the ones you can really save money on. And so you come up with a brash statement like, if I can't save you my fee, I'll give you your money back. Now that'll make a few of them sit up and think, hang on a minute, I might give this chap a go. And it might be the wrong way to do it, but it might get you some customers. And while you've got those customers, you can worry about nitpicking.
We can talk about offers on another occasion. 2 things. First of all, can we now start to wind this up reasonably? I think from next week, by the way, we're going to a 90-minute session. I think conversations are getting more in depth, and so we're going to start planning these from 8 o'clock till 9:30. Doesn't mean to say people can't, go at 9 o'clock. I'm not as precious as it might be in our day, but I think we need to allow for that, because I get the feeling that as the conversation gets going, we get cut off. So if I can just go around the table and just ask somebody what one thing they've got from the session today, and I'm going to start with Andrew.
Yeah, I think the one that strikes me a lot is giving your referral partners the tools to sell you, but also to get the tools from them to sell them. I've got a great referral partner at the moment who is very good at selling me, but I'm very poor at selling him. And I need to have a conversation with him about that, because it's just very, very difficult when you I find when I speak to people, they're just not, this is just not in that market. And yet actually we're very complimentary for what we do. So I need to have a chat with him actually. And funny enough, I've actually scheduled a chat with him this week. So it's interesting that it's come up in the meeting.
For my groups, by the way, knowing that the one-to-one was really key in developing the relationship and the understanding, I developed a one-to-one page. It wasn't a BNI one. I introduced it. I'll look it up and give it to you, and it basically takes you through some of the points. So, for instance, what to listen for, what to watch out for. It helped you prepare, and in some cases they would have it pre-printed and they hand it, but I always used to think it was better in the conversation. Kelly or Ewan?
No, I think exactly the same as Andrew, but I think what Barry said is also true. And a lot of times we forget with things like networking and things is it takes time, and you have to remember that, of all the marketing tools, some are very quick and some are not, and it's something that perhaps takes a lot longer, and you need to develop rather than push.
Yeah,
I agree. You've got to have the patience. All I meant was that there's a way of trying to accelerate it by doing things exactly on purpose and with a strategy. Barry?
Yeah, I like this group because it makes me think. It makes me think, am I doing everything that I should be doing? And this morning's made me think that whilst I do some things, and I think I do them okay, there are other things that I don't. And the old phrase marketing mix comes in, and I think I've got one ingredient of that mix, but I think I neglect one or two others as well. So yeah, thank you for making me feel, inadequate again.
Barry, you said what I like about this group is it makes me think. Can I quote you on that?
Yes, of course you can.
Right, Joe.
Exactly the same as Barry. It's a constant reminder and a kick up the bum, I think, of what you're not doing and you should be doing.
Well, you're not,
yeah. and always new things to learn as well. It's a great group. Thanks.
I think Nick alluded to his directness when he was talking to Mark. I think the atmosphere I always want to nurture is that whilst we want to be kind, we don't really want to beat about the bush. If it doesn't serve the other people here, if we see the doing something slightly faster or better or whatever, you need to tell them sooner rather than not at all. But it's only an opinion, and if that person takes it on board, that's absolutely fine. Mark?
I mean, as always, it is a bit of a wake-up call sometimes. I freely admit to not knowing too much about the subject, but constantly learning, and this is a great method of making like a sponge and absorbing. And now I'm just going to go off and try and think of a catchy headline to put on the next post.
I'm going to send you some.
Something about a topless accountant. I'm not sure whether that'll put people off or make them come.
Well, again, I would suggest you have a one-to-one call with Nick Sladdick for a start. And by the way, if you ever ask me about my knowledge of accountants, you'd fall about laughing. Think, how's this guy survived? I often wonder myself. Nick Cole.
A couple of things. I like your analogy of jab, 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 hook. I think it's easy to get that balance so wrong, isn't it? You can do the hook, 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 jab, or you're jabbing all the time. You're never asking for anything. Getting that balance right and actually asking for the referral or asking for the sale is an important part of the mix.
Very true. Very true.
And also, just building on Barry's point about this group, I think something about this size of this group being about 12 people, I think it creates a kind of quality of debate that you probably wouldn't get if there were 40 of us sat here. Maybe it's the intimacy of just having fewer people on the screen. I don't know, but it works, and it's good added value stuff. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
Good stuff. Thank you for that, Nick. Can I quote you on that?
You can.
Rebecca.
Yeah, thanks. That was another really, really interesting session. And especially because I'm redoing my website and really aiming at just at companies in design and construction, it's I've been thinking a lot about audience, who they are, and how to talk to them. So lots of what was said has made me just connect some of the dots, which has been really useful. Like some things that I was a bit unsure about, or thinking, oh, could do that. Some of what was said is definitely, sort of like a penny dropped. So that was, really useful.
Well, the next couple of weeks are going to be really key for that, because they're going to add in. We've got Mark Stonham next week about building relationships and where to take people, and I think he will be covering, how to reach out to the audience and how to take them to the next stage. And then we've got Nick the following week, the 23rd, talking about the importance of messaging. Nick, over to you.
I sometimes feel on a sort of one-man crusade around the whole space around messaging and how marketing works, and so I feel reassured sitting next to you at the top of the screen, Paul. So thank you very much. You can quote me on that as well if you want.
Mickey, you've been really, it's one of the rare moments when you've been quiet, but Mickey, what have you got from today?
Well, I've found it more interesting for me because most of my background in marketing has been more of having a film and trying to get people to watch the film and then get them to get their mates to watch the film and build up a fan base before I can be ready to sell them a product. It's quite often you can't just sell a short film. Nowadays it's a bit easier. There's lots of more different platforms, but 20 years ago you just couldn't sell a short film. But you could get enough fans together, and then you could get to the point of selling merchandise. Or so hearing different ways of, especially like with taglines, and getting an understanding on how to approach a person with the right sentence, I thought was really good. Same with putting a poster up, lions and tigers. You've got to get everyone into the circus top. I mean, that's the kind of marketing I've come from, that sort of background. So coming into a whole different world with you guys, really, it's a different, seeing different aspects of marketing. It's the same thing, getting bums on seats, getting them to tell about their mates to come to the next day's show. But I've always had a different approach. So it's interesting seeing different approaches, really.
You could even just say, you could even use as a test case, just look at how the circus attracts people. I was watching something about Blackpool and about in the days when they were filling the shows with peers and at the end of the pier. And I didn't realise, but one of the first, if a show came, let's say it was a Ken Dodd was on for the season or whoever, little and large, the first audience they would bring in were all the landladies, free of charge. All the landladies. Because they knew if they got it right with the landladies, when they were serving their guests, would say, which is the best show to go? Oh, you want to go and see Ken Dodd, you want to go and see so and so. They were a very important part of their marketing strategy. Rod?
Tuesday morning networking is like the white knuckle ride of marketing. Unbelievable. You can learn so much from so few. It's brilliant. I love it.
No, you can't quote him, Paul.
Actually, I love that. Marketing crew, a white knuckle ride on a Tuesday morning. That'd be brilliant. Guys, thank you very much indeed for today and for your contribution. It's your contribution that actually makes it. I did put the thing in place, and I know we're going to have lots of conversation around Mark Stonham next week, and that's going to be a real build-up to the coup de grace at the end of the month, and that will be next. So we're looking forward to that. All the best to everybody.